After finishing Space Base, I decided to have a look back at all of the stuff I've done over the last 5 years of game dev. I mean, just looking down my Unity directory, I've got like 50 projects here, half of which I don't even remember what are. So I decided to have a little step back and look at where I've come from and all of the different projects I've had over time. And you are going to join me. Fight and Flight is the first game I ever made, and as anyone who's played it can tell you, it shows. After trying for a while to get into coding, I always tried to overscope, so I ended up telling myself I would just have a day to make a game, and then I ended up spending a month or two on this. In reality, it's just like any other wave-based survival game. Enemies come at you, you shoot them, and that's literally it. It's very simple. Although I will say it did have a decent movement mechanic. The build doesn't work for it sadly, but like you would move towards your mouse. I can't really describe it. Like you would just hold W and accelerate towards your mouse. But yeah, this was definitely a beginner project. It didn't really have any meat to it, so I definitely wouldn't look at going to this again. Where Fights and Flights was the first game I made, Divide and Profit was the first game I released. You can't find them now, but I used to have quite a library of games on itch, and this was the first one I led off with. In essence, this game was a city builder, kind of. It really didn't have many city builder mechanics, it was kind of more like an idle game that looked like a city. Now, I didn't have a time limit for this one, but I still somehow made most of it in a day, and it was also the first time I really dabbled in pixel art, and I quite liked how it went, which probably set me off for how I am now. Yeah, even though I did leave this one a bit riddled with bugs in the end, I am quite happy with how it went. And, as you'll see in a minute, I didn't leave the city builder mechanics there. It was at this point that I decided I wanted to make a fan game for FNAF. Over the course of like a few months, I ended up making two, Five Flights at Freddy's and FNAF Manager. Five Flights at Freddy's was kind of a rip-off of a fan game one of my friends made, and honestly it was absolutely terrible and still is terrible to this day, but we all love it really. In both games you would control a spaceship attacking any different variety of bosses designed after characters from FNAF. And I decided to take this a lot further than the other game. See, where the original was basically a micro game, had about 5 bosses, each with their own attacks, mine I think wanted to have about 50, with about 4 attacks each, and it even had like a custom night where you could combine them, so it's quite cool. I don't have any footage of it, but it's even the first game where I dabbled in multiplayer, and it went horrendously. FNAF Manager, on the other hand, was much more of my own thing, being a place where you would build your own pizzeria. When making the game, I'd taken a lot of inspiration from a game called Day Shift at Freddy's 3, where you would do much the same, making your own pizzeria, but it was a lot more story focused than what I had in mind. Essentially, you would build, expand, and do day quests, and then when night rolled around, yeah, you were pretty much nocturnal in this game as well, you would have to fend off whatever animatronics you had in the building, and each of them would have had their own mechanics, but I never really got that worked on. It's not really good, but it's also the first game I've mentioned that you can actually still play. It's got a game drop page where I used to upload a bunch of like devlogs for it, and I was actually quite happy with where it went. Oh, now we're getting into the good stuff. Yes, that UI being clipped off screen is in the game. Welcome to Jeremy Hill Climbing. It was at this point where I was starting to get annoyed at myself for overscoping and not really finishing games, so I decided, in a call with my friends, to give myself 1 hour to make something. I got one word from each of them: Jeremy, Hill, and Elevator, and a legend was born. Jeremy Hill Climber is one of the most scuffed platformer games with the most scuffed mechanics, the scuffed hitboxes, and scuffed level design you will ever see. It's basically the trademark of scuffed. And the crazy part is, people loved it. We had a whole thing going for a couple of days actually, where this and, spoiler, the trilogy of games of Jeremy Hill Climbing got heavily speedrun, and it was kind of just fun to mess around with people. You can actually see them on speedrun.com still. It was really nice just having the feeling of, I've actually finished a game, let's go. But they were really scuffed, so I did take them down. I might put them back up again though, if people want me to. After the masterpiece that was Jeremy Hill Climbing, I wanted to try and make a platform game with a little bit more substance. There are actually two versions of Crimson Ridge, the one you're seeing now with a really janky player but decent level design, and then one where the player was really fleshed out, but it was just a test scene. Oddly enough, Crimson Ridge was, I think, the most planned out game I ever made that never got finished. It had a full story, I had all of the levels, bosses planned. It was going to be really good. But alas, it came to the same issue all of my games have, which was overscoping. It was just too big a project for me to take on with my skill level at the time. But it's one that I might look at coming back to in the future if I want to do platformer again. I think Supertag is and will always be one of the best games I've ever started making. It was Friendslop before Friendslop was even a thing. It was actually amazing. The concept was in itself really simple. You would play games such as tag, hide and seek, manhunt, etc, etc, but every character would have a unique superpower to help them. This could be flight, size changing, walking on water, anything like that. You could host your own custom lobbies, you could play with friends, there'd be proximity chat, there'd be different maps, you could customize the maps, the game modes. There was so much that you would have been able to do if I finished it. At this point in my game dev journey, I'm not bad at game development, but trying to do a fully fledged multiplayer game was just out of my scope, barely. So unfortunately I did leave this project decently early, but that wasn't early enough for me to have loads of fun on it with other friends. Like, I shit you not, we spent so long just running around the almost empty map with the 4 superpowers I added, just playing a really scuffed hide and seek, and it was great. So much fun, and this is the project I want to go back to out of any I've started in my life. I just need to find the time and skill to do it. Now, finally, we've come to it. The big dog, the Steam release with a staggering amount of sales. Space Base. I'm not really going to touch on Space Base as a game much because you've got the entire rest of the channel for it. I'm more going to touch on how it was like a waypoint in my game dev. Space Base actually started out very similar to Jeremy Hill Climber in that I gave myself 12 hours with a single piece of concept art and to see what I could do. And then off that base plate, my friend said, yeah, you should work on this. And then a year and a half later, the Steam release came out. It was a really nice feeling to have a full game under my belt. Like, I can actually say I've fully achieved something as a game dev, even though it didn't really do well on Steam. I'm happy with how the release went, and I'm happy that I actually reached that point in game dev. Will I ever release another game? I don't know, I've got a couple in the works, we'll see where they go. I'm not desperate to, I've released one and I'm happy. This is the most recent game I'm going to show you, and I've not necessarily quit the project, but I've kind of taken its aspects into something else I'm not quite ready to show yet. Being the first and only major thing I've worked on since Space Base, I was actually quite happy with this. It was essentially you build a town, NPCs would live in houses, you would expand your map, and that was really it. It was quite chill. Literally every document I have with this game on it has brackets chill on it, because I wanted this project to be something I could just, if I felt like it, I'd put some time into it. If not, I wouldn't. I never really had any prospects of this going anywhere, and it didn't, which I'm perfectly fine with. And that's basically every major project I've had over the last 5 or so years of game dev. I've had a bunch of smaller projects you're seeing here, but none have really gone any further than a day or 2 prototype. I am hoping the project I'm working on now will maybe spiral into something bigger, but if it does, I'll tell you about it. Otherwise, I'm trying to think of what to do with the channel. I need to think of things to post, things to do. If there's any game jams or game ideas you want to see me mess about with, let me know below. But if you've enjoyed, it would be great if you could drop a like, sub, all that good stuff. And if you really wanted to support me, maybe go check Space Base out on Steam. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Toodle pip.